pretty hokey looking business we got going on here, folks, but what we're about to roll with. Well, howdy everybody. We are on to the next project here. So we've got this JLG Skytrak 8042 in here, and the complaint is that when they get her boomed up and somebody's in a basket, it'll all of a sudden go kerkunk, tip over side to side. So the main problem is back here. So this hole, the spherical literally fell out of it. Like, it's all chonked out, wallered out. The bottom ones appear to be fine. Here's where it gets strange. So they asked me to go ahead and put all new. They got all brand new sphericals, new pins, all from Skytrak. So I went to taking this one out, and I had to tap it out of there, but it wasn't very tight, and I don't know what to make of this. Like, the bore has this funny little micro pitting in it that looks to me like it was rust at some point. And here's what's weird. Brand new bushing, you can tap it in there with a 16-ounce hammer, and when I measure it, it is size for size fit. It's not out of round, you know, and the bushing is narrower than the material it's going in, and yet I don't feel any steps. I honestly am getting the impression that that is how the factory fitted that thing, which is no good. Now, interestingly enough, the axles are made by ZF, and them suckers are tight. Like, I have beat on them with a 2-pounder, and they're not coming out. I'm gonna have to get a get my porta power on them and pull them out. And honestly, that's more how I think one of them ought to fit. So my overall gut impression at this point is that I think Skytrak fitted these things. I don't know, I don't see any other explanation, to be honest with you. Like I said, there's no evidence that it has worn or stretched to the size that it is. It's just too perfectly symmetrical with no visible wear patterns. I'm thinking that Skytrak, just for whatever reasons, ease of installation or whatever, fitted these things really loose to start with. And then that would explain why it would trash one. I mean, with no press fit to speak of on them, that's just a running start at disaster. So anyways, talked it over with the customer, and we're going to go ahead and weld and bore this one and the top one in the back. And you know, what I want to do here is actually, it's same sphericals top and bottom. I'm going to get these knocked out, and I want to see how much press fit they put on those, because those ones are not rattling around, and obviously that wasn't too much press. So my intention, unless I find out something really outrageous, is to measure that bore and match the top one to it, because obviously ZF thought that was a good press fit, and whatever it is, that's what I aim to roll with, unless I find out it's... Honestly, I can't imagine myself not going with it. I'm guessing from the way that it feels, they're, you know, a little over 2-inch diameter. I'm betting that's got at least a couple thou of press on it, if not more, because I haven't been able to make it budge. Now, mind you, I'm not getting a good hit on it, but I'm on there with a big punch, you know, side to side swatting on it, and I would say it's got at least 2 thou of press fit, or I would have been moving it. So at any rate, that's what we're up to. We're going to dig in. It's kind of late in the day that I'm getting started on this, so probably going to be back at it tomorrow and go to town. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, these are all the leveling cylinders that I've got off. So I put my railroad jacks, one on each side underneath the counterweight, because otherwise, when you yank both of these things out of here, this thing's favorite trick is to go clunk and fall over sideways. So at any rate, that's it for now, guys. I'll bring you back as we get into this project deeper. Morning, everybody. So I just got done, used some threaded rods and stuff, and pulled that spherical out and measured that bore, and it is exactly 2 thousandths of press fit, which makes me very happy, because that's about what I would have thought I would like to put on a spherical that size. So this bore, like I mentioned, is exactly size for size with the spherical, and that one's 2 under. So that's what I'm going to use as my boring dimension for the top ones now, is cut them 2 under size and get on with life. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the other spherical on the bottom and the front, and then go to it, setting up to bore and weld this stuff. So alright, so I'm kind of mocking stuff up here. What I did is spun myself an alignment sleeve of sorts. It's It's kind of weird. This hole isn't just worn, it has stretched, is what I discovered. So it was kind of a booger to get that one in there. The sleeve fits nice in the front one, but this one, it was kind of funny. So I had to do some flap wheeling in there. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, flap wheeled in there to get it to where it go in. It's still a little bit funny, but it's basically just to kind of get me centered up in the hole, because this is one of the deals where I have nothing to truly align with out here. And it's strange, that thing is thin enough, because this is going to be a bear, by the way. I don't know if you can see that. We've got, what is it? My bar is about 1/8 of an inch on a side smaller than the finished bore, which means when I weld it up, I'm almost guaranteed to have to get in there and die grind some lumps and bumps off, because I'll get in here, cut it 50 on a side over, and then weld it, and my weld's about 100 thousandths thick, which you don't say, that only leaves me 50 thou on a side worth of clearance, but there's almost always a few humps and bumps, and I have to be really careful the first couple passes, taking light cuts to make sure that I don't wad up chips between the bar and the bore, but we can do it. So anyway, I'm just kind of, I've got a shoulder on this because that bore was messed up bad enough I couldn't trust it to actually square me up. So I'm clamping it up against that shoulder so that I know that the bushing is at least square, even though the bore's a little bit wonky. So anyway, we're just experimenting with this. It's just really tight and awkward. I'm debating pulling these plates off and going to a different type of mount. I don't know. The whole thing is just not super nice for this type of setup, but we're going to figure out how to get it done. So anyways, I'll keep you guys posted as we're playing with it. Alright, so I just got done tack welding a plate into this opening. I think I'm going to try just, I say tack weld, I put a pretty good 1-inch weld on each side of it. Tail end is hanging in there. I think we're going to try just running it that way, because I don't want to go too crazy welding it in, bolting it in. So I got to grind all that back off, cut it off. We're going to see if that's sufficient to get the job done, I think. So anyway, next step here, figuring out what I'm doing with this end. Not super thrilled with any of the options that are presented me here, but we're going to do something. Get the plate bolted on here and just see once how it's going to look if I just swing it around and bolt it, or tack it on a corner here, leg over, and then support leg over that way. I don't really want that darn many different weld points, but this one is just not lending itself to coming together nicely. Main reason I don't want so many weld points is I got to try and touch up the paint on this thing when I'm done. It's one of the beauties of this is that's inside the doorway opening. Once the door's shut, you want to be able to see that. So I actually contemplated trying to take some of my big bridge clamps and clamp a plate on the side of here just to weld to, but the cylinder's kind of in the road, and I've got stuff in the road down here. I could do it, but it was going to overly complicate it just to avoid goobering up the paint. So I always swing these up to the side, let them settle all the way to one side and snug them up, because what I have discovered is that if you've got them hanging down and they're all the way at the bottom of the holes, that almost never works out good, because when you tack it on and it pulls, you've got no way, you know, if you're all the way at the end, you got no way to adjust it. It'll rotate and swing around, so once I loosen these up, you know, weld that up, I'll be able to tunk back and forth and find, you know, a nice no-load free spot in it. Whereas if I had it all the way at the end, you're screwed. You got no movement. If one of your welds pulled, you're just stuck there and you got to cut crap back loose and start over. So anyway, I think we're going to weld it on that corner. Maybe what I'll actually do is bolt a plate on here and over and weld something there. Anyway, we're going to get tacked on the bottom first. Oh, I'm so torn on how I ought to try and do this. pretty hokey looking business we got going on here, folks, but what we're about to roll with. Okay, so now is when we get to take advantage of what I was talking about with setting them all the way offset to one side of the hole, because now I'm guaranteed to have, see that? So now what I can do is just wobble it around, get it in the middle of its free play zone so that I know I'm not tugging on it some crazy direction. There's no way you weld up all these brackets without, as the weld's cool, they pull, and you'll have your bar all out of whack if you just weld it and roll with it. I have to do that to a little certain extent with my home built one because it doesn't have as much adjustability to it, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. See, I'm gonna have to play with this thing a bit, because right now I've got it in a little bit of a bind. I kind of anticipated that. Probably going to do here, I'm just thinking out loud, is take this bushing loose and knock it out of there, because there's no way you're ever going to get this absolutely perfect. It's just, you know, too narrow of a support distance on that bushing versus where my bearings are at. So I think that's what we do next, is we're all bolted down, and we're going to go ahead and take these clamps off and see if we can smack my little bushing back out of there. And if I can... No, it's just slipping through it. I was hoping it would try to drag it out of there, but it's not. But, okay, well, we're all right. Just taking those clamps off from it. Loosened it up enough to allow me to get it apart. I think what we're going to do is we're going to set up to overbore this. If we get too much vibration or chatter, I may have to add, you know, like I got these threaded holes here, and sometimes I'll bolt a plate across. Same thing there. I might have to add some, but I want to just try it first, because I want, like I said, the minimal amount that I can get away with on this one. And we're pretty close, you know, between the bearings, so that helps a lot. Like, this is closer than you would ever get even on an excavator stick end. So I think that gives me a fair amount of confidence that we should be able to make this cut without getting in crazy trouble. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and start setting up boring gear. So I try to make sure that I've got it as centered as I can make it, and part of that's by taking all the play out of this drive collet, tighten it right up to start with, and then once I'm done, I back it off to where it's got just a little bit of drag on it. Getting fairly close to where I need to rebuild my feed unit. I've got one detent in one direction that's no good, and then I'm getting to where getting a fair amount of play in this feed screw, which that's the big bummer, because that's going to be money. There is nothing I've ever wanted to order from Climax that's been cheap. These guys are some real bloodsuckers when it comes to gouging some prices. I actually bought myself a tap that matches that Acme thread, and I got a few ideas for, because that is a worm gear assembly in there, then that's the worm wheel that goes with, that's on the outside of that. It's machined out of one piece of bronze. So anyways, what I've thought about doing is boring the center out and then making a sleeve that I probably silver solder into the inside of it, and then finishing boring and tap it out using, you know, I thought about single pointing it, but it's not that large a diameter and it's pretty deep. I think you'd have a heck of a time running one that coarse single pointing it without loading up and causing trouble. So it'd be too small of a boring bar. You'd have to use like a 3/4 inch boring bar, and I see that being a nightmare. So at any rate, we'll see if I get around to trying that one of these days, or if I just finally bite the bullet and give Climax however many gazillion bucks they want for a new nut. But I should email them one of these days and see just how bad it is. I've never asked them about that part, but I have got just a raging case of sticker shock every single time I've ever asked them for a price on something before, so I don't really expect this to be any different. All right, I think we're ready to give her a whirl. Well, I was mulling this over as I was eating lunch, and I've concluded that I think it makes more sense to just bore this thing out and sleeve it. I can weld it up, definitely, but the problem with doing that is it's so close to finished bore size. I've only got, I don't know where I wrote it down, but 93 thousandths on a side is my finished bore diameter. Oh, it's only 93 on a side bigger than my boring bar. And that is such a pain in the butt to cut one that close to bar size. Just, I'm guaranteed to be in there die grinding. If I do anything wrong, you know, like I get some porosity or something, fixing that's a pain, because you know, if you got to go and do any hand welding, you almost always make goobers, and I'd be in there die grinding. I just don't even feel like dealing with that, and I can't see where this thing, it really makes that much difference. Matter of fact, any difference. So anyway, what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'll show you this in a minute. So here's the spherical. So the spherical is actually slightly narrower than what the material that it's going through is. So what that's going to allow me to do is I'm going to go ahead, the only issue I have with the idea of a sleeve in this application is sometimes when you go to press your bushing in, it'll want to shove the sleeve on through the hole. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that I'm putting it in from this direction. I'm going to go ahead and put a shoulder on my sleeve. Counterbore in here, shoulder on my sleeve. And I don't even need to worry that much. Normally, I'm trying to be super careful to get the press fit on the shoulder to match the press fit in the rest of it so that it's supported all the way through. But in this instance, I'm only going to put like a 1/16 of an inch shoulder on that thing. I really don't even care that much if that shoulder is a tight fit in its counterbore, because this won't actually be gaining any support off from that. So at any rate, I've got this chunk. This is a piece of 4140 that I had left over. Say leftover. I always buy a bit of extra when I do stuff. And so anyway, it's big enough to make the 2 sleeves I need. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick some number, I haven't decided what yet, and bore this thing, put the counter bore in, and then we're going to just tear the rig down and go bore the front one and then make 2 sleeves to fit them. So that's what we're up to. All right, Wiggles, let's see what you're up to. So Wiggles lost the key to his lawn tractor, so he's making one.
Well, I forgot at the house.
Forgot at the house, so he's making himself one. Trying out the new Vivor sander for the first time. Yeah.
Is that good?
I don't know. You gotta try it out and then we'll see.
Probably good.
Alright. Well, there you have it. Wiggles the first one to officially use the Vivor sander. Alright, I'm going to get back at my project now. Alright, we're just about to come through on this pass. Good way to get cut. I need to stop doing that. Alright. There we are. So, one of the challenges when you're dealing with bores this small is, we'll check, but it's very difficult to get the measurement inside the hole. We're going to see a minute if we can. I think we might be getting close to the size where I can start getting a measurement. But as long as I'm under that critical dimension, yeah, I'm not there yet. I can't do it. Well, yeah, it's just too tight yet. So when that's the case, all I can do, I need to get a pin gauge set about this size. I haven't got one, but I start stuffing drill bits in there and measuring them is what I do. Use it as a pin gauge basically to start checking. It's like it's a little bit wider gap than that. That drill bit measure is 0.187. Betting I need to find one that's about 190 or so. So I just remembered that I do have this set of drill blanks that I got somewhere. Oh, look at that. That is it. So that one is 189. Alright, so 189 and we are headed to 220. I gotta quick do the math on that, make sure I got that right. I forgot to. I always reverse my numbers and just make sure that it comes out right. So if I'm headed for 220 and I'm currently at 189, we've got 31 thousandths to go on a side. So we're going to advance this tool 20 thousandths and then remeasure. I want to kind of sneak up on this. I don't want to go blowing past my number. Real pain in the butt working here, kind of tight. Comes wiggles with trailer on the tractor. Rattling through it. I think he's actually cleaning up out there. Looks like he's hauling junk. Awesome. We'll take a 20 thou cut and see where that leaves us now on. I think I might have finally got big enough with some idea of what the bore is with my spring calipers. I'll put 2.688 and by golly, 2.6875 is technically the number, but that's what we wanted. Alright, well, I think all we got now to do is I'm going to advance the tool 50 thousandths on a side. I want a counter bore in here, 50 thou on a side over what I currently am and 50 thousandths deep. And now what I will do is run it up there until it skims the face and then shut it down there. Now, what you've got to do is put in a stop. So this is where I will put this stop to work, is right here. What I'll do here is I've got another one of these drill blanks that's a 50 thousandths one, and I will just stick it behind my stop. Slide the stop up against it and tighten it in place. Something I just thought of that I hadn't had occur to me until just now, but that would be a pretty good idea, is if I made a clamp that went on here with a dial indicator off the face of this, I could really nail numbers then. Not that I often need to for this, but it'd be an interesting experiment. Backed up just a little bit, and then that was it. She said no. A little baffled by that. Not super thrilled about it. But looks to me like we got our 50 thou anyway, but now that I see it in the flesh, I'm questioning whether I ought to have a tiny bit more, but I think we'll stop with that. I think that's good. Alright, now I gotta figure out why I can't get my bar back up. I'm a little suspicious that I picked up a chip. If you get a chip in here, it can just find you right up and say, nope, we're not going. Alright, well, I'll get her loose and figure out what's happening. Looks to me like we are to the stage of pulling this gear all off. And getting set up to bore the other one. That looks pretty. It's one definite upside to cutting in virgin metal. There's no weird porosity, there's no weird hard spots, none of that. She looks nice. Alright, just for grins and giggles, let's see what the caliper says we ended up at. 2.688, right on the nose. Okay, well, everything agrees that I've cut it 2.688. Beautiful. It's always a nice thing when you actually hit your numbers exactly where you want to hit them. Alright, so there's the bore finished up. You can see basically, I'm 1/4 inch bigger than this spherical is. So that's going to give me an 1/8 inch on a side wall thickness. And then you can see my really fine little step. That's just enough to keep that bushing from wanting to press through there. I mean, generally, because this outside of any of these sphericals or sleeve bearings are hardened, they slip easier, and its tendency is for the sleeve that you press in to bite in because it's mild steel like this is, and this to slide in it. But just out of an abundance of caution, so I don't have to deal with it shoving over by accident, a little shoulder on will keep it so that when I press this in, it won't be able to escape from me. So, and then this is completely captured. You can see you're between ears, so it's not really an issue of that sleeve coming out. It can't go anywhere. It's just a question of whether or not it might try to come out pushing this in. And then in the future, as long as you press this out that direction, you know, you would always be keeping your sleeve in nice and tight in case it wanted to move on you. So anyway, that's what we're up to. We're gonna tear down, set up on the other side, and do the same thing. I probably won't bother videoing any of that, and then I'll show you the sleeve part of the process. So I got busy carving out a spacer or a bushing here and forgot to video it, but you all know what lathe work looks like. We're down to our last couple of passes here at this point. There it is. Not a real clean face on there. That 4140 doesn't part off very nice. Let's go ahead and rest the end of it off a bit. You can see just a little 50 thousandths tall, 50 thousandths wide shoulder, just enough to keep that thing from walking through the hole. So that one's done other than cleaning up the face and ready to get on to the next one. Alright, so I've got a little anti-seize smeared on here. I'm going to see if I can get it to start here. I think what I need to do, I've got a lot of press fit going on this. I'm pushing 3 thou of press. I think I'm actually going to go over here. Should have thought of it before I anti-seized it, and sand a little more of a lead onto it, because I'm afraid I, took a file and broke the edge. I'm afraid that's still kind of sharp. I want more of a rounded edge. So perfect job for the little V-bore belt sander. See, I didn't go crazy. I just kind of barely broke that edge. Can't find my other jug of anti-seize. I left it sitting somewhere. This stuff is about dried up into a brick, but it'll work for what I'm doing here. Just needing a little bit of that graphite in this. Help make her want to slide. Now, let's take a look at him. We got bushings as thin as this, 1/8 inch. They, even with 3 thou of press on them, it don't take much to make them go. I'll get one more. That was it. I heard her hit home that time. There she is, guys. The baby is born. So, that looks nice. Just a little bit proud. Barely can feel it. And this side, just barely a little bit proud. That's what we're looking for. So now, I gotta get the spherical all gooped up and then we'll smack it in. But what I'll do here a minute before that is I'll measure this and make sure it shrank by the amount that I was planning on. If it's too tight, I'll go in there and hone it a bit. We'll see what I got out of that in a minute. I thought I'd show you my setup here. So you see we have just enough room on that arm to get 2 mounts welded on, and we are making our first roughing pass through here right now. So anyway, the other side is all completely reassembled, ready to rock and roll. So all we gotta do is get this board out, and then I'm not finishing the bushing until I get it bored, because if I happen to miss my number a little bit here or something, I can always compensate for it in bushing size. No point in backing yourself into a corner unless you have to. So at any rate, we're gonna get it machined up. And actually, I didn't mention that, but I did miss a dimension doing this one. When I was machining my bushing, I'm not quite sure what happened, to be honest with you, but at any rate, my bore ended up a little bit oversized. So what I did is just added some press fit to the outside, because a thin bushing like that getting pressed into a hole shrinks the inside by almost the same amount as you add press on the outside. So that wasn't a terrible situation anyway, because it cranked up. The tighter the press fit, the better, and then that brought my ID back to the dimension that I wanted it after it was installed. So no harm, no foul. So anyway, we're gonna get punched through here and then get on with it. Alright, so we're on the finished pass here. Unless for some reason it cuts a little undersized, but I doubt it. And then I just have to cut that counter bore in there, and then it's back over here to the lathe. Once I've got that cut, gotta think about this. Yeah, I'm gonna come over here, move this out far enough to be able to cut the entire part and have at it. Alright, we finished that pass. Let's go take a walk, see what Wiggles is up to out here. How's it going, Wiggles?
Good.
So Wiggles is getting parts we need for our bus off. This battery tray was completely rotted out on the one we brought back from Georgia. And this one's a bit rusty, but it's definitely not a goner. So anyways, he's working on getting it unbolted, and then we're going to probably sandblast the thing, prime it, paint it, and bolt it into the other bus, because it's a heck of a lot nicer looking than the other one. I was going to rebuild the other one, but as long as we got a solid one, I might as well use it. Wiggles just getting ready to put the old impact wrench to work and buzz that out of there.
So you get the socket on.
Oh yeah.